Committee. We do have a quorum with myself, Council Members Benton, Bradford, Vice Chair Huffman, Council Member Kimbrough, Nash, and Weiner. And then I know Councilmember Prepty was here. We'll recognize him when he comes back in. We do not have any public comment today, so we're going to move past that. And I do have a tentative consent agenda. So I'm going to read off the items that I have for the proposed consent agenda, and then we'll see if anybody has anything that they would like to pull off. First item is item number 2, RS 2024-923. Item number 3, RS 2024-924. Number 4, RS 2024-925. Number 5, RS 2024-926. Number 6, RS 2024-927. Number 7, RS 2024-928. RS 2024-929. 930. Item number 10, which is 931. 932. Number 12, which is 933. 13, 934. 14, 935. 15, 936. 16, 938. And then we have, let's see, I guess that's it. How about any of these items that anyone would like to pull off consent? Councilmember Kimbrough, you're recognized.
You're still going to read through them.
Oh, yes,
we'll
ma'am.
have another chance.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Right, thank you.
Sure thing. Councilmember Prepty has joined us, so I will mark him as present. Councilmember Benton, you're recognized. Do you want to speak on the microphone?
I would like to pull number 19.
Number 19. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't have that one on consent, so we're good there.
Okay.
Anybody else before I start reading, and then I'll see if anybody has anything they'd like to pull off after I'm done. Okay. We will go ahead and move forward with reading. First item is item number 2, RS 2024-923, Porterfield, Evans, Welsh, and Allen approves a grant contract by and between the Metropolitan Government acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health and Rafah Institute for the provision of the Accountability and Restoration Conferencing Safety Programs. Item number 3, RS 2024-924, Porterfield, Evans, and others approves a contract by and between the Metropolitan Government acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health and Ascension St. Thomas to make available to potentially eligible individuals who receive inpatient or outpatient prenatal or postpartum services or who accompany minors under the age of 5 receiving pediatric services information about WIC program benefits. Item number 4, RS 2024-925, Porterfield, Evans, and Welsh approves a contract by and between the Metropolitan Government acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health and TriStar Centennial Medical Center to make available to potentially eligible individuals who receive inpatient or outpatient prenatal or postpartum services or who accompany minors under the age of 5 receiving pediatric services information about WIC program benefits. Item number 5, RS 2024-926 accepts a direct appropriation grant from the Tennessee Department of Health to the Metropolitan Government acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health to implement coordinated activities and services related to HIV prevention and surveillance. Item number 6, RS 2024-927, Porterfield, Evans, and Welsh accepts a grant from the Tennessee Department of Health to the Metropolitan Government acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health to promote the recommended vaccines to ensure that Tennessee meets or exceeds the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Healthy People 2030 objectives for immunization coverage. Item number 7, RS 2024-928, Porterfield, Evans, and Welsh accepts a grant from the Tennessee Department of Health to the Metropolitan Government acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health to enhance the health and well-being of women, infants, and families by improving the availability and quality of community resources and service delivery systems, and to eliminate disparities and reduce the rate of fetal and infant deaths in Tennessee. Item number 8. RS 2024-929, Porterfield, Evans, and Welsh accepts a Supporting Prevention of Adolescents Resources Knowledge SPARK program grant from the Tennessee Department of Health to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health to support the prevention of pregnancy among adolescents through resources and increased knowledge and to promote parenting skills for adolescent parents. Item number 9, RS 2024-930, Porterfield, Evans, and Welsh accepts grant and aid funds from the Tennessee Department of Health to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health, to aid in providing a variety of health services to meet the public health needs of Tennessee's citizens. Item number 10, RS 2024-931, Porterfield, Evans, and Welsh accepts from the University of Nebraska a grant for expenses to attend the City Match Conference and additional monies for services to integrate support services into the perinatal systems of care to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health. Item number 11, RS 2024-932, Porterfield, Evans, and Welsh approves a grant contract by and between the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health and the Tennessee Justice Center for the provision of assistance and support to individuals enrolling in public benefit programs for health insurance and food assistance. Item number 12, RS 2024-933, Porterfield, Evans approves a contract between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health and the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia by and on behalf of the University of Georgia College of Veterinary Medicine for the provision of clinical instruction and experience opportunities for students enrolled in the University of Georgia College of Veterinary Medicine's Veterinary Medical Education Program. Item number 13, RS 2024-934, Porterfield and Evans amends Resolution RS 2024-775 to replace the exhibit thereto with a revised version for a grant from the Tennessee Department of Health to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health to provide supplemental foods, nutrition education, and breastfeeding promotion to eligible persons through the Women, Infant, and Children Program. Item number 14, RS 2024-935, Porterfield, Evans, and Welsh approves Amendment 1 to the Healthy Start Initiative, eliminating racial ethnic disparities grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health to provide a variety of services in reducing infant mortality for pregnant and parenting women. Item number 15, RS 2024-936, Porterfield and Evans accepts a grant from the Friends of Metro Animal Care and Control to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health to provide funding for various programs for shelter animals. Item number 16, RS 2024-938, Porterfield, Evans, and Welsh approves a sole source contract between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Nashville Fire Department, Emergency Medical Services Division, and Image Trend LLC to provide data collection and reporting software. And that is all for my proposed consent agenda. Do I have anyone that wants to remove anything? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Council Member Nash, for that motion. Does anybody need anything removed before we get a second? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone not voting? Okay, that's 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. All right. Councilmember Nash.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. When you look at all these grants, so many of them came out of the Health Department, and I want to applaud the Health Department's efforts to seek out grant funding, and you've done a great job.
It's the Health Department show today, so yes, they've done an excellent job. Thank you very much, Commander Nash. I guess we're actually going to move to the primary aspect of the Health Department today, which is RS 2024-922 by Porterfield and Evans. This approves the compensation for the Director of Health is fixed by the Metropolitan Board of Health. Do I have a motion? All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this item? I hope you all had a chance to look at the conversation last night at the special called meeting. I'm seeing heads nod. All right. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Anyone not voting? All right, we recommend approval, 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Very good. Let's move on to many pages later. Go to item number 17, which is RS 2024-939. This is Porterfield, Evans, and Welsh. Approves Amendment 1 to the contract by and between the State of Tennessee, Department of Commerce and Insurance, and the Metro Nashville Fire Department, or NFD, for the provision of annual fire and building safety inspection services for pre-kindergarten and kindergarten through 12th grade schools. We do have, can we get a motion on, okay, and we have an amendment. And so Captain Young, do you want to come to the podium and talk about the amendment?
Well, yesterday, when I came here, I wasn't aware about the amendment, so if Director Darby could help me with that.
Yes. Let me recognize Director Darby.
Yeah.
The amendment to the resolution amending the contract is just a housekeeping amendment to accurately describe the attachment to the resolution.
All right. Very good.
Very good.
Captain Young,
Thank
did you have anything to add?
Thank you.
Okay. Can I get a motion on the amendment? All right. It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of the amendment? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone not voting? All right, so we recommend approval, 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. So now we are on the resolution as amended. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Anyone not voting? All right, we recommend approval on the resolution as well. Thank you. Now we're going to go to item number 18, RS 2024-940, Porterfield and Evans accepts a statewide school resource officer program grant from the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security to the Metropolitan government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department to provide funding for the placement of school resource officers in Metropolitan Nashville public and charter schools. Do I have a motion? All right, it's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on this item? All right, I am seeing none, so we will go ahead and take the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone not voting? All right, we recommend approval. 9 in favor, 0 against. Actually, now are we up to 10? Okay, we are still at 9. All right. Thank you. So we recommend approval, and then we'll move on to item number 19, RS 2024-950 by Councilmember Prepty. Request the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department, Davidson County Sheriff's Office, Nashville Fire Department, and Civil Service Commission to review current personnel policies and enact new regulations regarding participation in hate groups and paramilitary gangs, as well as the misuse of water cannons and fire hoses. Do we have a motion? All right, it's been moved and properly seconded. Councilmember Prepty, hang on one second. Why can I never find you? Here you go. You are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, colleagues. Before moving into discussion, I'm going to move to amend with a brief comment.
You're recognized.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. So this, what this resolution does is it essentially just requests that MNPD, DCSO, the Fire Department, and the Civil Service Commission review our current policies that are in place. As this body is aware, there's been a lot of work that we've engaged on specifically with this topic. But what this resolution does is it directs our departments to do an internal review and do an audit of their current policies and the efficacy of those policies. And what the amendment also, or what the resolution also does is it provides a timeline for which the various metro departments to report back to us on those specific findings, for us then to be able to take action on those findings, whether or not their recommendations provide us with specific language for a potential ordinance change, or whether or not those policies are effective to the standards which we see appropriate. And then what the amendment also does is it narrows the directive for the Civil Service Commission and for Metro HR specifically, just as it relates to the uses of water cannons and fire hoses, just because that's something more directed and specific to the various to the agencies that are specifically named within this resolution. But this resolution is aimed at applying towards all of Metro, all civil service employees, and so with that, I renew my motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Prepty. Any discussion on this item? I see Councilmember Weiner first, and then we'll go to Councilmember Huffman.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. My primary question at this at this point, is there anybody in Metro government employment left out of this?
Who's best to answer that question?
Margaret, maybe?
Sponsor? Councilmember Prepty?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, to my colleague's question, so specifically with this, this looks at the various agencies that have oversight and authority within these specific practices and within the Civil Service Commission. And so working with Metro HR and working with the Civil Service Commission, what they'll be doing is providing us recommendations for a potential change in our ordinance that would apply to all of Metro regardless, just given this specific authority that council has as it relates to the Civil Service Commission to provide Metro HR for Ms. Hall to provide us those recommendations or specific language within the ordinance to be able to address that. So this is the first step in us having something that not only just applies to these various departments and with the Civil Service Commission or civil service positions that are Metro-wide, but a first step in being able to change the ordinances to make sure that it's fully applicable across the board. So this is just the first step of many.
Councilmember Weiner?
Thank you, Chair. I'm concerned that we may be leaving somebody out. And while I certainly agree with where you're going, because certainly no one of us wants to have anybody that's involved like this. However, I'm concerned that we may have somebody that is going to be engaged with us or our constituents in some way that may be missed by this, or that we may be applying a different set of standards to employees within Metro government. So I'd probably be comfortable if we had Metro Legal take a look at this and just make sure that we're covering that before we move it forward. That would be my only concern.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Weiner. Let me get Councilmember Huffman.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of questions for MNPD, and then I'll have the same questions for NFD.
All right, Deputy Chief Gilder, I almost demoted you to council member.
Deputy Chief, always good to see you as I keep my eyes on the chair. A couple of questions for you. The first one indicates just overall incidents that you are aware of within MNPD regarding hate group participation.
I'm aware of no incidents, at least not in, I've been with the department. This is my 23rd year. I'm not aware of any.
What about the MNPD policy right now? Is there any specific language that addresses this that you know of?
Well, as far as the entire resolution is concerned, I've identified about 18 different policy provisions that could apply to the conduct, most of which I think are related to the provisions around membership within certain organizations that the resolution addresses.
Okay, thank you. That's it for PD. Could I now ask Mr. Young to come up?
Sure, Captain Young.
Captain Young,
Council.
hey there. Same questions to you, and we'll start with just any known incidents from the fire department.
No, sir. Not in my time, no.
And how about policy right now regarding these actions?
Yeah, there's just like PD, I don't have them in front of me, but yes, there's a lot of policy in place that would be directed to this resolution that would be prohibited and would end up in some type of disciplinary action.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know, honestly, if there's anyone that represents the Civil Service Commission, but I'd be curious to explore some questions with them.
Oh, Director Hall, do you want to speak to the Civil Service Commission?
Hi, Director Hall. We do have a number of provisions that I think would likely lend itself here, but we do not have any specific provisions in civil service policy that would specifically address the two that are named here. I did have a really good dialogue with the sponsoring council member to review those policies and to the extent that there is any kind of gap. But I talked to him kind of functionally through some existing civil service provisions, which would apply to all sworn officers in police, fire, and specifically the correctional officer series. That's a unique one where Sheriff Hall is over a department where the correctional officers are civil service, but everybody else outside of that series is not civil service. And so we do have some policies that I think if we had a particular case where someone was participating, that we likely have some provisions that would lend itself, but nothing that directly speaks to the two named groups that the sponsoring council member has.
Okay, thank you. And so the one thing I want to highlight is, number one, I appreciate my a colleague bringing this up. It's very important to recognize the fact that if you belong in a hate group, you have no place in regards to Metro government. That's my opinion. Now, with that said, you should also not hate anyone for the color of their skin, but those people are out there, right? Without all that said, to make it known just for everybody who's watching, this is not a problem that is happening in Nashville. Now, we can take steps to prevent it, absolutely. But it's just a really, really important delineation because I had some constituents that reached out to me regarding the title, and I appreciate you amending it very much. And I think that'll help clarify some things, but just for the record, and we heard it from both departments here, it's not an issue here. Good prevention tool, though. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Nash, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You know, I rise. How can you be against a bill that doesn't want hate groups involved here? I can't be against that, surely. But the fact is, we already have policies that address this. I spent 33 years in the department. That was something like 13 years ago, so 46 years. And I never once saw a fire hose come out during that whole time. We're correcting problems that don't exist. Have they been used in other places? I mean, if you look at the documentation of Nashville's civil rights struggles here, we saw police action arresting people. There were some billy clubs involved somewhere along it, but never did see a hose. And so my problem with the bill, and I know it's not Councilmember Prepteet's intent, but here I think it infers to the public that somehow we've got these wild people out here involved in hate groups when it's not. We have policies to address that, and that somehow we've been using fire hoses, and that's going to be a threat to our people, and it is not. And so I'm going to be a no on this, in spite of Jeff's, I think, efforts to try and moderate this appropriately. But I don't think we need a resolution or a bill to address this issue.
Thank you, Councilmember Nash. Councilmember Kimbrough, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if we're really that naive or if we're just trying to protect certain groups. I don't know what the motivation is, but I personally know that in this city, just a few years ago, a young man was shot in the back of the head by a security guard at the corner of McFerrin and I think that's Cleveland, or very close there, by a security guard that was working at the pharmacy burger. The security guard was dishonest and said that the man turned a gun on him. Later, the videotape was discovered, and you saw the man was running with a gun, and the security guard running from some other people who just shot at him. Security guard shot him in the back of the head and killed him, one shot. Within weeks after that, Metro Police hired the security guard. They hired that security guard. That security guard had Facebook posts where his name was _88, which some people know stands for Hail Hitler. That was his Facebook name. He had other very questionable racist posts. Now, at that time, I was not on this council, but I sued the company he worked for. I sued him. I sued the establishment. I sued everybody I could. We got limits on that. The man was later, that officer who sat as a Metro policeman, was later indicted on, I believe it was second-degree murder. So to sit here and pretend like, oh, we don't know, this never happens, and that's just one that just came out. I don't know if we're just being naive or if we're really trying to protect images. But I just couldn't sit here and not mention that when I know that what some people are saying is just not true. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kimbrough. Councilmember Huffman, you're recognized.
Yeah, just real quick, in regards to my colleague's comment, you know, one thing that always bugs me as a politician is when people say, all politicians are the same. Both sides are bad, right? You can't judge an entire department based on one employee. You can't do it.
Thank you, Councilmember Huffman. Councilmember Kimbrough, I'll get you.
I just wanted to say this. I was responding to whoever said they know of no incidents.
Thank you, Councilmember Kimbrough. Councilmember Prepty, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, colleagues, for this discussion. Something that I want to note is that I would agree with my colleague's categorization that you cannot judge an entire department, an entire agency on one instance. But we have to make good policy on what we know has happened and the threats that we know exist. And I have the utmost respect and reverence for those who have made the decision to serve our communities, especially in a dangerous capacity. They have a great duty and responsibility to our community, and as do we, to ensure that those who are in those positions have the utmost reverence and respect for every single life that they come into contact with, regardless of the capacity in which they come into contact. What this resolution does is it requests that there is an in-depth analysis on current policies and making recommendations to us to make sure that they are addressing the efficacy. Because in the preambulatory statements within this resolution, it lays out the specific danger. Now, the issue, I want to be clear, the issue that we are addressing is not with our institutions. It's not with MNPD, it's not with DCSO, it's not with Nashville Fire. It's to make sure that they cannot be infiltrated by these bad actors. I am not saying, and never once on this council floor have I come up and said that MNPD is the problem. That is not what I am saying. The problem are these people that we know are attempting to infiltrate not only our city institutions, but infiltrating our state. We have had a number of reports in the news in recent months about these specific kinds of groups, not only coming into Nashville, but seeking to establish a compound within miles of Nashville. What we are requesting is to make sure that that the policies that we have in place will have the efficacy to prevent that institutional infiltration, and if not, providing us recommendations on how to address that specific issue. That is all this resolution does. And so I ask for your support in the work that we have been doing in a truly collaborative manner, and continue working with me and with our city institutions to make sure that we are enacting good, sound policy that serves every single individual within our city. And with that, Madam Chair, I renew my motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Prepty. We never voted actually on the amendment yet. Okay, we're going to vote on the amendment first. And so I'll just ask you to raise your hand since there'll probably be no's potentially on the amendment in addition to the legislation. All those in favor of the amendment? I'm a yes, so that's 6 in favor. All those against the amendment? Oh, 1. All right. Anyone not voting? Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to the resolution as amended. All those in favor of the resolution as amended? All right. And I'm a yes, so that'll be a 7. All those against the resolution as amended? We got 2 against. Anyone not voting? Okay. Thank you very much. We're going to move on, and we will now hear from the Police Athletic League. We are fortunate to have Sergeant Natalia Johnson and Lieutenant Kimberly Brown as our guests today. And so I will turn on their microphones, and you all are free to get started. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us. I'm Lieutenant Kimberly Brown. This is Sergeant Natalia Johnson, and we're with the Police Activities League. We just wanted to take a few minutes of your time to talk about some of the activities that we've been putting on this past year and some of the recent successes that we've had. Over the summer, we decided to put on our first track season. This was, at the time, the biggest event that we've had. We had 90 kids sign up for the team. However, with a 5-man staff, we were not able to take all 90. So we were able to work with 40 of those participants, age 5 to 12. And we partnered with East High School and Innsworth High School to put on the practices and then the following track meets. We had 3 weeks of 2-day practices at East High School, and then we had a track meet each week at Innsworth High School. And for kids who had never competed in track, we did really well. Those kids brought home 16 medals. We had 4 golds, 5 silvers, and 7 bronzes. They participated in events such as the 100, 200 meter sprints. We had a shot putter and a long jumper. So we will be doing this again next year, and that was probably one of the funnest events I would say that I've had so far with the Police Activities League. We had a group of girls come to us and say that they enjoyed a lot of the activities that we were putting on that were intramural, but they wanted to have some type of dance or cheer component. So we thought, why not have something specifically that girls are interested in? We are all inclusive, though. We do not let anyone cheer if they want to, so it is open to little boys as well. However, we only had females sign up for this. And so we partnered with Cheer Hive Nashville, and they came and put on a cheer camp for us. This was in the Napier community, and we had 30 girls originally sign up, and then 22 followed through with the program. They were ages 6 to 13 years old. And this was a program that was made available through a grant from the mayor's office. It was an ARPA grant that is specific for the Napier-Sudicum community. So we did this camp at the Napier Community Center. And they spent several weeks with Cheer Hive Nashville, and then at the end of the camp, they put on a showcase where they did their they put on a performance, they did some cheers, they did a dance routine, and just got to show their parents and the community what they had learned. And it was a very positive impactful time for these girls in that community. It went so well, we decided to put another one on this fall. And this time, one of our members thought it would be a great opportunity to connect with some older girls. So we reached out to McGavock High School and had their cheer squad put on the camp. Because we thought, why not, if we're going to be supporting someone, we can support their cheer squad as well as allow these high school girls to mentor these little girls. And this was also in the Napier community. We had 30 participants ages 7 to 12, and our junior raiders is what we called our team. They got a chance to perform with the McGavock High School cheerleaders at a basketball game. So they did halftime cheers, they did free throw cheers and things like that. And the girls just really loved it. And we make sure that we give them uniforms, pom-poms, and of course you have to have a bow to be a cheerleader if you guys didn't know that. So we make sure that they get all the things. And with this, we were able to make a donation of $2,400 to the McGavock High School cheer squad, which will allow them to cover some of their costs for an upcoming cheer camp that they will actually attend, as well as sign off on some community service hours for the girls who participated in the camp. We will probably extend this into next year as we've had great successes with our cheer camps. Over fall break, we decided that we wanted to offer something for the kids because with kids being out of school, we're not sure, when they're eating, what they're doing, what are they doing with their time. So we forged a partnership with the Alliance and the YMCA to put on a fall camp at Camp Widgiewagon. Camp Widgiewagon is a very expensive camp. It's about probably $500 a week for your kid to go to this camp. With our partnerships, we signed up 100 kids. That was our goal, was to have 100 kids go to Camp Widgiewagon for the week. We averaged about 77 kids, and this was all free to them. We provided transportation. They got to eat hot meals while they were there, as well as participate in all the activities. And this was a collaborative effort. The Alliance and the YMCA paid the bill for this camp, which was over $30,000. So this was one of our biggest successes, a big collaboration work between us and another organization. And the kids had an absolutely fantastic time. Our goal here was to have police officers in every group of the kids. We had 8 groups of kids, and each group had about 4 or 5 police officers that was in each group. And the officers were in plain clothes. The kids, unless they knew through conversation, they didn't know the cops were cops, because we wanted to build those relationships throughout the week so that they see us as people. And then on Friday, our last day at camp, we had a police showcase. So at lunch, the officers went and put on their police uniforms, and then the kids met us out in the field, and we had a lot of our special operations equipment, and then just different departments from the police department come out and showcase their equipment, and the kids got to see us then as police officers. So I thought that was a great way to bring home camp. We've been asked, and we're hoping to do this again next year. The Alliance is looking to up the numbers to 350 to 500. We'll see what our capacity is to do that. And also, we have to always look for funds to do those things. So, but that was a big deal for us. It was a great opportunity for the kids that we serve to get to do something that they would not financially be able to do otherwise.
Another one of the partnerships that we nurture to connect kids, cops, and community is through the Nashville Soccer Club. Also connected us with the Alliance, the Nashville Police and Public Safety Alliance. We put on a mini pitch series. So Nashville Soccer Club has graciously built mini pitches, which is basically a little mini soccer goal, a soccer field. And so we had 2 teams this year. We had Ida B. Wells, as well as Ida B. Wells Elementary, as well as Napier Elementary, and we got kids from both of these schools, some of which were already in programs previously, which is always a plus for us. We like to keep a lasting impact instead of putting on one-off events. We like to cycle kids through and keep them coming back and mentoring and making connections with officers. So we put on this camp. It was really successful. We put on practices with coaches who are law enforcement officers, some of which were with our community engagement teams, as well as with our PAL staff. We're all law enforcement, coaching these kids, having a good time, checking in with them, making sure that we're providing them with snacks and food. And then at the end of a couple of weeks of training, we're able to put on an event out at the mini pitch that is right behind Edge Hill in the Midtown Hills precinct. So that was a wonderful event, and we're looking forward to future programming with the Nashville Soccer Club. Another recent success, we put on our first sponsored boxing showcase. Another one of our gracious partners is the Boxing Resource Center, which is out in West Nashville. And we have been partnered with them since the creation of our new Nashville Police Activities League. It was a pilot program, and we put on non-contact boxing training there. A great physical activity, also something that can be really great for mental health because we're all fighting for something, right? So we have kids come in. Some of them are extremely athletic and pick up on the sport right away, and some of them not so much, but that's okay. They get to come in, they get to work out, we get to find out how their day is going. We get to check in with them with school, see how they're doing. And so the partnership with Fighters Boxing Gym, which is also the Boxing Resource Center, has been really special to us, and we find ways to utilize our partnership with them so officers can go in and coach kids, build relationships. We also take boxing programming mobilely to other places once we find out that it'd be easier for the other organizations that we partner with, like Dream Streets, to have the programming actually go to them. Our future plans. So with the year starting anew in 2025, we're looking forward to golf clinics. We'll have a partnership with parks to make sure that we are able to utilize our intramural team. MNPD has a golf team, and the officers and other law enforcement officials on this team are really looking forward to sharing their passion of golf with youth across Davidson County as a means to mentor, build relationships, and then provide opportunities to do golf center activities that we are funding and parents and participants don't have to worry about. We're looking forward to another track and field team, as well as flag football. As Lieutenant Brown mentioned before, another fall camp. And we also have some basketball plans, cheer, soccer, boxing, and culinary. This is what I like to call our very small but mighty team. As you look up on the screen, we have Lieutenant Brown, myself, Miss LaWanna Coleman, Officer Edmund Strickling, Officer Eric Hall, and we actually just added one other part-time with us, Mr. Steve Turner. All of us are really passionate about connecting kids, cops, and community, and all of these events that we've shown you, we not only program them and organize them and promote them, but we're coaching and we're hands-on with the kids. At any and all activities that the Nashville Police that we put on, law enforcement will be present because the goal is to connect kids, cops, and community. We utilize these activities, obviously it's fun, and we get to give out bows and pom-poms, but the goal truly is to make connections with these kids, right? And in doing that, we find out all kind of other needs. So we pull resources internally and externally, whether it's within our department, for-profit organizations, not-for-profit organizations, to make sure that the impact is lasting and that we make not only an impact on the kids, but their families and even their siblings who may not be old enough to participate. And then obviously that's how we're community. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you both. I guess a couple questions I have right off the bat, and then we'll see who else may have questions from the committee. On your, as far as the programming is concerned, you referenced some specific school or areas like Napier and that kind of thing. How do you market the opportunities that you all have to the community, and how do you disseminate that information?
Sure. Well, we have an internal database that we use. So any kid that has ever signed up for a police activities league activity is in our database. So when we have a new program come up, we push it out to those families first. But then we also utilize our partners. We have partners with the YMCA that we push information out to, the Juvenile Justice Center, because they have some kids that could qualify, our school resource officers, and then we also promote via our website, through social media, Instagram, Facebook, and we also, so some things, say like the Napier cheer, we had ties to that because of grant funds. So if it's in a specific part of town, we'll go to the schools in that area, the community centers, and maybe the libraries or wherever else the kids are going to get our information out.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. And then on the folks that are involved with facilitating the activities like golf and that kind of thing, everybody that is facilitating works for MNPD, or do you also have like community members that want to volunteer their time that participate?
So we do have community members that want to volunteer and participate, but each one of them goes through a series of vetting. So their background check, they have to do abuse prevention training and then take a test as well. And then obviously we're always present. Law enforcement is always present. So yes, we do welcome volunteers. But you will have to background check.
Okay, that's definitely something that makes sense. And I think I had one more question. Oh, do you offer transportation, or is it really just kind of around areas where kids live?
So we do a combination of both. So because we want to be inclusive, a lot of the programs that we put out, we end up putting them out countywide. So sometimes there's parents who's like, hey, I want to sign my child up for that. I can bring them, and we welcome them. And then sometimes there's circumstances when we already know maybe there's a kid that we worked with before. We know we're going to pick him up, and we're going to make sure that we make that happen. So we do have some transportation. We actually have a couple vehicles for that reason. And then because we're on a department with lots of vehicles, we sometimes reach out and say, hey, can we use y'all's 15-passenger van because we have about 30 kids we want to pick up. We also have utilized partnership with MNPS, and we utilize buses as well.
Okay, very good. I see Councilmember Bradford has a question, so I'll recognize Councilmember Bradford.
Thank you, Chair, and I appreciate this information. I appreciate what y'all are putting together, mainly because the last couple of years, I've had a lot of conversations with MNPD as we approach periods of the year where we know students are out of school. And typically during those periods, what we're about to come into the holidays, spring break, summertime, we also sometimes see an uptick in juvenile-related crime that sometimes just comes down to because they're bored and they don't have supervision. And so they're letting themselves get pulled into things. So I appreciate this. I'm wondering, what are y'all looking at, like targeting certain programs for specific parts of the year, knowing that, hey, we know 3 to 4 times a year we have issues with students not having supervision?
Yes, and fall break was one of those reasons we wanted to do that, just because kids are out of school. That's one of the weird parts of the year where people don't generally have as many plans as they do like spring break or something else. So we try to target those times so kids aren't just sitting at home not doing anything. So yes.
And I apologize if y'all said this earlier, other than social media, like, do you send information home with students via the schools? Like, and what else do y'all do besides that to kind of target and let folks know that, hey, this is something that you can enroll your kids in?
So through our partnerships with different schools that the officers on our unit work, we make sure that either there is a digital flyer with information, we send direct links to school administrators, whatever way we meet the need, we can meet the need for that particular community. And sometimes it's a paper flyer, and sometimes a digital application is not going to work. It has to be a paper application. So we try to make sure we meet the need and get the information out however it's going to be the most convenient for the parents.
Okay. And are y'all working with all the schools in the county, or are there just certain schools that y'all are working with?
We try our best to make sure that we communicate with as many schools as possible. With such a small team and wanting to make sure that we stay in alignment with officers being involved in everything that we do, we have to be mindful and strategic with how we spread ourselves out.
Just final question, Chair. I'm wondering if maybe we can get a list of what schools you're currently working with so that we as a body can kind of see where you're at and maybe see what we can do to help get you into other schools, working with our school board and whatnot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bradford. Any other questions? Councilmember Gregg, you're recognized.
I love the positive intent behind the work you're doing. It's incredible. And the collaboration. Thank you for choosing McGavick. I'm Marshall, they're in my district. But I have a question. You said, I think in your track and field program, you had to turn 50 kids away. I hate that we had to turn 50 kids away. Was that funding or staffing?
Staffing.
And because we didn't have enough MNPD to help with that particular?
Well, basically, yes, my team, there's 5 of us. And as much as people have good intents and say they want to help volunteer, what we have found that is that when it comes time to ask for them to boots on the ground, everybody's busy. So a lot of the stuff that we do is basically what the 5 of us can handle. So that's why we're not in as many schools as we wish we could be in, or that we are having to turn kids away because we can't have a ratio of kids larger than what we can keep safe. And so with 5 of us, it's just hard to do. Sure. And then we also have to take into consideration safety of the location, have officers to do that, not only manage and coach the kids, but just transportation and everything else. So if and when our team expands, then we would be able to be larger and do more. One of the great things about the fall camp, though, was with schools being out, the SROs were available. So that's why we were able to have so many officers. We averaged 30-something officers at Camp Widgewagon with the 70 kids because school was out and they needed something to do. But just on a daily basis, we can't we can't tap into the other officers on patrol or whatever else because they all have other things.
Totally get it. And so you don't use civilian volunteers at all?
We do, it's just getting them to show up and actually help.
Well, then I'll vow, if you need civilian volunteers, you reach out to me and I will get them there.
Awesome,
His
thank
name
you.
is Jeff Gregg, G-R-E-G-G.
And I will do it
Thank you.
because I don't want us to turn anybody away.
Councilmember Nash.
If anybody might wonder why I continue to be proud of the work of the MNPD, where I've spent so many years, this is certainly one of the reasons. So often in our conversations, there's a segment of the public that thinks all we're doing is putting kids in cages. And in fact, we've reached out with a number of these kinds of programs to reach out to kids, give them alternatives, and let alone the council themselves funding schools, funding NASA, funding all kinds of programs. We're not just about cops and robbers. We're about making opportunities for kids. And I thank you so much for the work you're doing. You're doing a great job.
Thank you, Councilmember Nash. How about any other questions from anyone? On that note, I think that's a great note to end on. I appreciate your time so much. Thank you very much for being here. And we look forward to hearing more in the future about how we can disseminate information for you and that kind of thing in the community. So I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. May we step down?
Yes, you can step down now. Okay, we're going to hear now from Mr. Bill Clendenning from the Office of Homeless Services. He has the monthly update, and so everybody on the committee should have one of these. If you don't, Vice Chair Huffman has extra. All right, Mr. Clendenning, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And good to see everyone, of course. Just wanted to hit a few highlights for you. As you know, there was an RFP issued for the interim housing services provider on 11/15. The deadline for those application submissions was 12/6. There was several applications received. A review, we're trying to do this as quickly as possible, of course, to make it the most expeditious, efficient way. So a review panel has already met, reviewed and evaluated the applications, and we have meetings later this week with some of the applicants, negotiation meetings to go over the terms and come to an agreement. So we will have a resolution before you in January, the one council meeting, to have an agreement in place and move forward with that. Also want to mention the cold weather shelter. As you know, that's under the OHS purview now. So there have been 8 nights that the overflow shelter, the winter overflow shelter, has been open, and 1,308 people have come through the shelter in those 8 nights. So it's gone really well so far, and it's been staffed almost entirely by OHS staff. There are hired security guards, of course, and some house cleaning people that come in afterwards. But staffing-wise, and especially leadership has been there night after night. So that's been really leading the charge. I wanted to mention that as well. And there's information on the report. So if you want to volunteer or anyone want to make donations, there's information on how to do that. We know you guys always like to lean in, so we wanted to make sure you had that. And I see Councilman Huffman has a question.
Can we have him keep going, or do you want to ask right now, Councilmember? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Also, you know that we've been working with the rescue mission, our team has for years, to be able to integrate their data. The HMIS team is finally now doing that, and it's going to be that data and the cold weather shelter data will be included on these reports every month. They're separated out right now because there's still some there's duplication issues, of course, and HMIS team is still working to really refine the data because it's coming from a different source. But that's on page 22 in the data report if you're interested in seeing that as well. But that's just one of the 3 ways that the community has really tried to increase access and data collection. The other ways are through the cold weather shelter, because we have HMIS team members there every night, and they are collecting data from anybody that isn't already in HMIS, keeping track of who's there and who isn't. as well as just increasing the number of access points throughout Nashville for coordinated entry. I did want to mention that the interim gap, the gap financing, all those developments that receive funding are now online and are almost fully leased up. The landlord engagement team has been working hard with the community and the service providers to get people housed as soon as possible. And there's also through the Barnes Fund, some of the money went over to the Barnes Fund, and round 14 was issued, was awarded, and that's bringing on Greenview, another development. So that'll bring another 80 units of affordable units and another 120 of the total affordable housing. So that's another big step, but that's increased, and those are getting leased up as well. And while I was there, I thought I'd talk just a second about the Low Barrier Housing Collective, because it's really, they have some tools now where they're really able to organize. And there are now 347 private landlords participating in landlord engagement in the Low Barrier Housing Collective, with about 15,000 properties in that database. Those are the major points I wanted to hit. I know y'all had some questions, so I wanted to.
All right, let me get Councilmember Huffman first, and then we'll get Councilmember Bradford. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Huffman.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Clendenning, always a pleasure. Thank you, sir, for coming and giving us always a really, really good rundown of info. Question about shelter operation. I know this is the first year that OHS has done it without social services, so
That's
it's,
correct.
Yep, that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
First off, how's that been going? Any major issues coming up?
No, it's always a learning process, anything new. There's a lot of preparation that went into it. We have an emergency services team, a manager that is, solely that's her job, is to deal with emergency services, primarily being the shelter, of course. But the feedback from the community has been very positive, and the feedback from our neighbors, that visit the shelter has been very good too.
And the total number that can be facilitated at the Brick Church Pike location is what, roughly?
375, 300?
Three-
Excuse me, 300.
300. And those 300 individuals, they have access to a cot, pillows, blanket, all the above?
They do, and then they have, they're fed warm meals
Yeah.
in the cafeteria, and then breakfast in the morning.
Yeah. So, pillows. You guys have pillows?
We have pillows? No pillows? I'm sorry. No, I worked in the cafeteria the night I was there, so I wasn't really in the rooms, but no pillows.
Any particular reason why we don't offer the homeless pillows? That I'm very curious about.
Good evening, Director Calvin here. One of the reasons that we don't offer pillow is just pillows are because they kind of breed and hold on to cold, flu, COVID, lice, bed bugs, all of those things. Our team is tasked with wiping down cots and spraying them down after each visit. We have a small team that's responsible for nighttime sheltering when it's open and daytime operations. We utilize a linen company to help with washing the linen, and that company, we're going to reach out to them to see if they have anything that could cover or have like a pillow protector in order to cover that. We do have a council member that's working on acquiring pillows for the shelter, and I've been in deep conversation with him about that work. But I'll say it's not lost on me when we tour shelter, spray down, wipe down the cots. It's not lost on me that there are some individuals that would not go to a shelter that would have a real bed and choose to come to our operations with a cot without a pillow. We also can work on what we've worked on, offering extra blankets that they can roll to use as pillows as well.
Chair, in January, I want to follow up to make sure that we got a plan for pillows.
Okay, thank you. How about other questions? Council, let me get Bradford, and then Councilmember Welsh, I'll come back to you. Councilmember Bradford.
Thank you, Chair. A question that was brought to my attention last week. a constituent of mine who is residing at Hillside Crossings over on Spence Lane had mentioned that now there's a lot of Section 8 and a lot of housing being utilized for homeless individuals there. But a lot of these individuals don't have means to get supplies or get food. And it's a food desert out there other than the Lost Patty restaurant and the Waffle House. So I would ask these questions like, when OHS is utilizing vouchers or Section 8, get folks from camps into temporary housing, are there other services that either OHS or the vendors are, like, is there a way for these individuals to get food and basic supplies?
Yes, we partner with Mending Hearts and Step Up. Those are two organizations that provide ongoing supportive services. And then we also partner with other community partners that's providing the wraparound resources. So there's a lot of resources that's deployed there. Sometimes our office will help with buying supplies or getting donation for supplies. But if there's a concern there, then I'll have our landlord engagement team reach out to that property owner.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that and find out what can be done to assist some of these individuals. And my last question, I can't recall the Brick Church Pike facility. Is it pet friendly?
Yes, we average about 2 to 4 pets every evening that we're open.
Okay, and I'm assuming if you're only having 2 to 4 a night, are y'all having any issues with pet supplies, pet food, et cetera? Do y'all have adequate supplies for that?
At this time, we have adequate supplies. Thanks for asking.
No problem. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Bradford. Councilmember Welsh, here we are. Yeah, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing me, even though I'm not on the committee. I wonder if you could tell me who was on the panel reviewing the RFPs and who will be on the panel doing the interviews on Thursday?
So we probably will not discuss that here on a public setting during an open RFP process. I'm not sure if that is information that we should share.
Why would that be information that couldn't be shared?
Typically, when agencies or organizations have open RFPs, they don't typically discuss that until an agency has been identified for the award.
Well, then I would like to request that after the interviews and the award is made, that we have a listing of who reviewed that and who was part of the interview panel.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. How about other questions for, Councilmember Weiner, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. That leads me to another question. What is the process? And I would fully believe that that's something that can be shared. What is their process that they go through in awarding these grants? And also, what our grants are, RFQ. And the other question that I have is, what are the criteria that they abide by when making those awards?
Yeah, Director Calvin, do you want to speak to that, or is that?
I can. So the process is typically posting an RFP. We'll post it on our webpage. Sometimes there's questions that'll come in, and we'll add an additional addendum so that everyone who asked the questions can get the same answers, even those that did not ask the questions. So there's a addendum that's posted as well. And then there's a deadline date that's provided. We actually Bill actually receives the awards in by the deadline date, distributes them to everyone that's a part of the review panel. Normally there's a week to 2 weeks to review, depending on the number of applications that actually were submitted. And then the review panel meets to discuss. There's a scorecard. The scorecard has the scoring from every individual that was ranking the organizations. And then in the end, a lot of times the contracts that come in may not be as prescriptive or as detailed. And so, knowing that this is interim funding, then we sometimes will have a negotiation meeting with the agencies. And so that's what Bill was sharing this week. We're going to go into negotiations and then finalize the contract within the upcoming week.
Thank you. I guess one point maybe to make kind of related to procurement and some of the questions about process is that Councilmember Suara is leading kind of that procurement working group. And some of that information, even though it's not going to be apples to apples necessarily for how, it might be addressed kind of related to provision of these services, I think overarching, it's providing some really good information about process. So anybody that wants to dig into procurement, I would recommend going back and listening to all of those meetings over your Christmas vacation. How about any other questions for the Office of Homeless Services? All right, well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being here and answering those questions. And is there anyone here from Metro Action Commission? Okay, I thought I saw somebody back behind the pole. Come on down. And I'm not going to say your name out loud because I don't know how to pronounce it and I will screw it up, and I'm looking forward to learning how to say it. And you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So it's actually, this might not be the best venue for you to learn it, but I'll just go ahead with it. So it's actually Oluwadamilala. It's a mouthful. So it's Dairo.
And what can I call you, Dairo?
Just call me Dairo.
Mr. Dairo?
Everyone calls him Dairo. Yes, please.
And please introduce yourself, and because I invited you to come and share who you were with the committee, and then hopefully we're going to be able to have you come back and do a full presentation, in the new year.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to present to the council members. As you all know, for some of you that do not know, Dr. Krum retired from service after 24 years of serving the residents of Davidson County on October 31st. And so from the 1st of November, I have been graciously appointed by the Board of Commissioners to provide leadership in an interim capacity while we transition into permanent leadership. As you all know, MAC partners with families with low income to provide economic mobility. And I've been afforded that opportunity to provide leadership during this time. A little about myself, I have a bachelor's in chemical engineering and an advanced degree in urban and regional planning, and another advanced degree in systems engineering. Prior to serving in an interim capacity, I served as the Director for Transformation and Innovation. I was responsible for supporting and developing strategies to support the agency, program design across all 5 program areas, as well as providing stakeholder relationships and management. Also, I was responsible for data analytics and driving the agency's use of data as a service. And I still serve in both capacities as of now. So I'm both the interim executive director and I'm also the director for transformation and innovation for the agency.
Very good. And I saw it looked like excited cheering, waving hands from Berkeley Allen down front. Is it the is it the systems engineering that got you excited?
Oh, she's systems engineering? Analytics, all right, yeah.
We got engineers in the house. So thank you so much for being here. And to kind of go backwards, so I had originally invited Dr. Crooms to come and speak about MAC last year, but we didn't get an opportunity because she had a death in the family. And then she was starting to transition out of the organization for her retirement. And so I appreciate you coming so we all know who you are. And then I'll look forward to reaching out to you and we can coordinate something for the new year for you to come back and talk about your department and what everything is that you guys are doing right now, because it's so vital to Nashville.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. All right, any other issues, concerns, questions from the committee? It doesn't look like it. Wait, Councilmember Huffman, are you trying to speak? Oh, no, you're trying to drink. Okay. All right, well, I really appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much for being here, and with that, we're adjourned.